So here I am on my Cub Cadet 2018 LT42. It's an XT1. My drive belt came off. It didn't come off, it went over the drive pulley. And all the videos on YouTube where people are talking about the drive belt, this is like a PTO clutch. And on my model, this is just a single pulley. And you have to get this bolt off. And I tried a battery-powered impact wrench, and no surprise, that didn't even loosen it. So then I went to the store, and I got a electric one. And surprisingly, that did not do anything either. It just did it and didn't do anything. So then I got a little desperate, and I tried the rope in a spark plug trick. And I don't think that works on this engine or something. Spark plug holes there. And I put like 2 feet of this, like, you know, kind of nylon thin rope, and I was just putting it in there and putting it in there, and there's just like a big gaping hole, and the engine just would turn and turn and turn. Okay, so I was about to give up, but what I thought about, I read where people were saying that you could take the starter off. This is the starter. I'll show you where that goes in a second. And they were saying that you could put a screwdriver in these teeth to block them, but I'm not an engine guy. But I cannot imagine that like hammering on a bolt while having a screwdriver in those teeth is going to be good for the teeth, and that it would just break them off. So what I did is I just found a piece of wood that actually fits this hole. And so the starter just goes up like this. You're supposed to unplug the battery. Starter's there. You just remove two nuts. Okay. So then I got this piece of wood that is the size of this hole, and I stuck it in here like this, and turned it towards the teeth, and I let the teeth get a grip like that, okay? And then I took this 1/2-inch wrench, put it in a pipe, got a 4-pound hammer, and just hammered on it, and it drove, one time it drove the teeth through the wood, and that's okay, I got a long piece of wood, so I just did it a second time, and lo and behold, the bolt started moving. Now, I have been pushing and pushing this bolt, and my impact wrench will still not move it. So I'm just sitting here on the floor with this breaker bar, basically, just pushing and pushing and pushing. But that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to show you the act of me sitting here moving the wrench. You know how to do that. But this is how I stopped it, so that I could actually do it. And I'm pulling on it right now, and you can see it just doesn't move. And the good news is mine's only a year old, and I know some people have trouble pulling these off, but look at you can see it's moving. But this bolt is just so hard to pull out. So I would say before you try anything else, just pull the starter out, unhook the battery, pull the starter down, and find a piece of wood that sticks in this hole, and you should be good to go. We'll do a little follow-up. This is the part, after you get it out, just a single part, it came out fine. It's even got like a little key on here. Looks like if you had the right kind of tool, you could just stop the thing from spinning with that, but I tried with like a crescent wrench and it just dented it. This is the bolt. I had to use the bar on that wrench, this bar, all the way into the very, very end. I tried switching halfway through just to the wrench, and it wasn't moving. So this thing is super in there. I'm not looking forward to putting it back in. I imagine my impact wrench is only going to do so much putting it back in. Once you get this piece off, which again, hopefully yours just slides right off like mine did, but that's where you end up. That's free, and you can see my belt now sticking off. I'm not going to put it back together tonight. I'm going to go in and put a new belt on it while I have it in this state, in case the old belt is what made it fall off. But just kind of wanted you to know what to expect. This is with the newer Cub Cadets, just to show you the hood. I don't have the exact model number. It's the LT42 XT1. I've got that upside down. But anyway, that's the model, and hopefully this helps somebody who has this one instead. So I'm to the point, I've got my new belt now, I've got everything I need to start putting this thing back together. And one thing I noticed when I talked in my last video about how really hard the bolt was to get out. And I noticed, I don't know if I can get it to focus or not, but when I see it in the sunlight, it's got this Loctite on it, you know, like thread locker, and it's not focusing now, but you can kind of see in the sunlight that it looks red. And I actually talked to a person that I work with who knows something about engines, and he was pointing out that this is indeed it's red thread locker, red Loctite, something like that, and it's not meant to come off. So what you can do, I had read where people used a torch to heat up these bolts, but I'm not about to take a torch to this thing. I don't know what I'm doing well enough, and I'd melt the gas tank or something. So it's not meant to be serviceable, so it's not meant to be broken off, or, you know, pulled back out. But I did manage to. So what I really don't want to do now is put this bolt back in with this red leftover Loctite on it, because I want to know that if this belt comes off again, I can service it myself, hopefully with an impact wrench. So I bought some new blue Loctite, and my goal right now, I'm about to take this tap and die set and try to actually get all of the Loctite off of this and also off of the drive shaft underneath. So my plan is to use the die to get the all the red Loctite off of this bolt, and then to take the tap and use that to clean out the drive shaft, so that hopefully this thing is cleaner. Then I can put some fresh blue Loctite on and be able to service this thing much more easily in the future. So I'm gonna shut off the video to get this this die started, because it's kind of hard, and then I'll get this back on and we can kind of watch and see if it actually works, and see if the red thread locker comes off. To get a point of reference, here's the bolt still with the red Loctite on it. And I'll show you how far I can screw it in just by hand before it gets really tight. So about that far. We'll see after, if I get all the Loctite off, how far I can get it in just by hand. I'm going to give an update of where I'm at. So with these die, what you've got here is one side is kind of has like a chamfered edge right there, and then the other side is flat. And I think normally when you're actually putting threads on something, you'll start from the side that's chamfered. But in our case, since the bolt already has threads, it's kind of easier to get it started on the side without the chamfers. Now this is really hard. You feel like you're stripping it. When you get this started by hand, it can only go in like, you know, 1 or 2 threads, and you just feel like you're stripping it, and it just gets really hard. So I'm just you kind of just have to jump off a cliff. I'm wondering if I should have just bought a new bolt, but I don't know if the bolt would come with the red, you know, like already lined down it or whatever. So I'm just kind of here now, going for it. So you just you get in, and you get to a point where it kind of stops. And when that happens, I've just been backing it out, and it's very slow progress. I back it out, and then I just kind of go in again. But one thing I just discovered, and I'm slowly getting further and further, but one thing I just noticed, and I'm about to stop the camera while I do this, but you can kind of see like where I'm at right now. The first few threads are getting clearer, and I tested this to make sure it would still actually go up into the drive shaft, and it did. I'm worried. I'm still worried I'm stripping it, cross-threading it. But I noticed that if I take like one of these guys from a screwdriver kit, I actually can kind of knock some stuff off, kind of like a dentist here. But it's just very slow going, and I don't think you knock all of it off. So I'm gonna sit out here and keep doing that for a while and see if it gets a little easier to pass this through the die, and then I'll update. So quite a bit later, I don't know, 20 minutes later, here's where I'm at. I did finally have to break a torch out. I don't have a torch, so I used this guy that we cook with, and I don't know. After torching, you know, taking the pliers and and torching it, I do find that some of the stuff's coming off a little more, and I'm able to move the die a little further on, and like if after I torch it, when I scrape it, more stuff comes off. But what happens over and over again, and I'm not going to do this whole thing on video, but my basic process has been get this thing started, and it's warm, but it's not that hot anymore, so I'll just get it started. And it gets easier to start as it, so it's started there, and then I just kind of drive it forward as much as possible, and eventually it just comes to this spot where it won't go anymore. But I've used also, you know, this will make some people happy. I also tried some WD-40, and I got a couple of extra threads at that point, but that was before I got desperate enough to torch. And here it just doesn't move anymore. And I'm still not even like all the way through this. I've still got so much to go, but slowly but surely, if I just kind of back it out, maybe torch again, maybe put some WD-40 on, I can just move a little bit by little bit further. So it's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a boring process. You don't want to watch the whole thing, but I thought I'd give an update on kind of what it looks like. Okay, after several sessions with the torch and the die, I was able to actually get this all the way down to where the Loctite had been. Probably still some left like around in here, but I actually just did a test on this in the shaft, and it goes much further. I'll show you that in a second. You do get some little metal shavings coming off when you're doing the die on it. I think that's probably unavoidable. I definitely did not end up crossing the threads, so I think you can see it tore this like down to silver and took all the black off. So that's hopefully what you would expect to see. Like I said, I'm going to put some blue Loctite all along here, just like the red was before. That's the plan, because my goal is I don't want the drive pulley falling off when I mow, but I also want to be able to repair this in the future without massive effort. So we'll see if I get there or not. Well, so let me just show you now if I do this by hand compared to what I was doing before. Before I couldn't have even made it this far, but now I can go. You see, I'm just to the end of the threads pretty much. So I feel pretty good about this. I don't think there's anything up in the shaft. I mean, that's it right there. Can't ask for much better than that. I'm not too worried about any red Loctite or whatever up in the shaft causing problems. So I'm just going to try to go for this with the impact wrench, putting the bolt back on with some blue Loctite. I am not liking this Cub Cadet design the more I get into this. I did find a torn spot on my old belt, which is probably why it came off. It's like not torn, but it's got a little cut in it. So there's the front. That's where the drive pulley is going to go. And as you go back, you go through a couple of other pulleys, and then you go back to the transmission back here where the other belt goes. But all the videos, I couldn't find anything for the LT42 on YouTube. All the videos for like the what is the 1042, the one with the white hood, they all have these 3 pulleys in between. This guy does not, and what I would recommend you do is go to Home Depot website for look up LT42, and they actually have a link to the parts diagram, and in that they have like how all this stuff is laid out, so they'll show you what way this belt's supposed to go on. But what we've got right now, I've got the park brake on to pull this thing back. There's only 2 pulleys. One is here and one is here, and it goes around the inside of this pulley, and then it comes in and goes on the flat side on this little pulley right here. Okay, well, I have no idea if I can show this to you on camera. I'm gonna try. There's a bar right there. You can see the bar, and there's the pulley, the black pulley. There is not enough space between these two to get this stupid belt off. I have gone in there and pushed and pushed and pushed. You can see right through here where it goes. And the belt goes around this black bar, so there's no way for me to get this belt off. I could cut it off, but that wouldn't help me get the new belt on. So I know I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to take this bolt out. It connects to a nut on the high end of that pulley. I can't imagine what their design is for like how you're supposed to get this off. There is nothing else that moves. You push the brake down and it moves these two pieces, but there's nothing on that pulley that moves. So that's what I'm gonna try to do, and see if I can get the belt out, and then I guess I'm gonna have to leave that pulley off until I get the new belt routed. To better illustrate what this really looks like, I grabbed the diagram from Home Depot's website and pulled out this one page for the LT model. And you can see the pulley I have a square around is the one that bolts down and is fixed. And you can see in the other square is the piece of metal that's next to it, the bar that the belt has to go around. And you can indeed see that neither of these parts move independently. So after having finished the job and also just looking more at this diagram, I'm convinced that to change this belt out, you have to remove two pulleys. You have to remove the front drive pulley and this one, number 23, from this diagram. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take... I can't. I'll make you motion sickness if I try to show this on camera. But I'm going to take a crescent wrench, put it up above the pulley as long as I can, and hold the nut that's up there, and then just take that bolt off with the socket wrench. So I'll let you know how it goes. I got the belt off. I did get it off. I'm feeling very certain I'm going to regret this now. I'll kind of pan down here. There are my. You got like a few parts you got to keep up with. The thing that I know, this bolt actually like holds, goes through here, and this whole thing goes through there too. And so what I'm gonna have to do to get this back together, see if I can get a good shot of it. Let's see, where'd it go? Sorry, right there. There we go. I'm going to pull that spring off of that bar. It's probably what I should have done to begin with. And then once I do that, this plate should be loose, and then I can stick it back on. I'm pretty sure you had to take that bolt out and just loosen this plate to get the belt off. Also, keep in mind, I just told you I had the brake on. If you turn the brake on, this bar gets pushed forward up under another bar, and the belt won't be able to come off. So you do have to release the brake. But I mean, I've torn this mower half apart changing this belt out. So I've gotten this back on. I haven't put the belt back on yet. I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose any of these parts. Again, go to that parts list. I could show you the order of everything, but it wouldn't show up well, and you really just need to see the diagram yourself. But as far as this spring goes, that was right here. It's easier. This is the spring, and what you'll want to do is the looped end just goes right here on that one, and the open end goes on this piece of metal back on the other end. And I took pliers and pulled this end off first, and then just unlooped it so it wouldn't hit me in the face while I was doing this. But I've got this ready to go to redo the belt here in a second, and hopefully start throwing some of this stuff back together. These are both 9/16 of an inch, so I did 9/16 to hold the nut on the top, and you have to come in from this side. I just used the circular end, and then again 9/16 on the socket wrench to get the bolt off. I got the belt on. I haven't put the front part on yet. I'm waiting to get the mower up on a ramp to do that, but I was able to feed it. Feed it around the outside of that. On the back it goes around the hydrostatic transmission and goes around the outside of that, which there's a little piece of metal on the other side of this one that you've got to push it past, but you can do it, especially if you take the spring off. And goes on the inside of this one. I tighten this down, it works. And the biggest thing was getting the spring back on, but I had to put my head in from the other side and I was able to get it on. So now I just have to do the front. I've got everything ready to do the last step. So I'm up on the ramps and I have the brake down. You're going to want the brake down for this belt to get some reach. So I'm ready to put the belt around this thing, put it back on, put the bolt in. A couple of things to note. Notice that this is keyed, so you'll see a slot on the shaft, and then this is that key I mentioned earlier. That has to align with the slot. And also, I didn't mention this earlier, but when you're taking stuff off, make sure you remember there's a little spacer up here. And mine didn't come off, but if yours comes off, you're going to want to make sure you keep up with that. So I'm going to kind of just make sure it dry fits okay real fast. And then I'm going to put some Loctite on it. So I'll do this. And push that on. And one thing I noticed, you'll kind of have to work around these the metal wings. But there, that's in. So if I get the bolt going, it's kind of up in there. Make sure that that's good. And so yeah, he's fitting just fine. So should be ready to just put the Loctite on and put it in. And I'm going to try putting it in with the impact wrench. I'm going to see if this thing stays on long enough. I think it's going to stay right there for me to put this Loctite on and then get ready to go. So, get everything in position. I'm going to make sure I got enough room here. Yeah, I can run the tool. So you won't necessarily see this part. I'm going to get some Loctite on the bolt and I'll show you that. I'm not the world's biggest expert on Loctite. A whole bunch of it just came out. Okay, let me cover this back up. Okay, so I've got it's kind of wiggling fast. I've got the Loctite put on it. Put the blue Loctite. And I'm gonna start it by hand. Wow, that went right in. Okay. Then I'm gonna use this impact wrench to tighten it down. I don't have the engine block blocked. I'm hoping that this will be enough. And I mean, that went all the way in. I'm hoping this will be tight once the Loctite dries. Let's see. I know that's probably loud on camera. Okay. That spins just fine. It's not loose at all. And I don't know. Don't worry about stuff. I'll go one more here. Okay. All right, so presumably in about 10 minutes that'll start to set. That should be set. I just want to make sure that that belt moves all right. So let's see here. Yeah. Wow, I don't know if that's showing up or not, but it seems to be moving just fine. It has moved everywhere this has gone. I'm looking at the other pulleys, and I'll see if I can show you that or not. I'm not sure up under here if it'll work. Let's see here. Oh, that's not very good quality. I'm sorry I did that. Okay, yeah, so there's the other pulleys moving. And my transmission's back here moving too. So it looks like this belt went on just fine. All right, so next, what I've got to do, I've just got to put this all back together because I can't run it yet. So I've got to put the starter back on. I'm not going to do any of this on camera. The starter, I've got the two nuts. It's just got to go back in here. This. I've got to screw that down, and then I've got to put the plastic cover back on, put the filter back on, and put my spark plug back in, and then everything should be back together. Just have to hook the battery up, and this thing will hopefully be running. So I'll put down in the description the actual instructions I used to do this, and fingers crossed this is all it takes, and next time it won't take as long, because hopefully the bolt will be easier to remove, and I'll know everything else that has to be removed to get this done. Thanks for watching.